Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Island. As you can see, I'm still marooned on this beautiful island all by myself. But again, I have a tropical shirt on, so I am good to go. If you like the tropical shirts that I wear and you want to check out some on Amazon, check the links below. Buy yourself one of these beautiful shirts. But for you guys that are preparing for your fantasy football draft, today's show is for you. This is podcast number 2, and I hope you enjoy. So today we're stranded on Fantasy Football Island, and we're going to talk about your redraft leagues and the do's and don'ts in preparation for your leagues. So if you enjoy this content, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you'll keep getting notified when new podcasts come out. And I do plan to bring a new podcast to you about fantasy football every weekend, so please subscribe. Now, if you're ready, let's go. So obviously the first thing you want to do is find out when is the draft. And you want to make sure you allot enough time during the draft so that you'll be there, you'll be present, you'll be aware, you'll be paying attention, and you won't have to leave early and set it to auto draft or something crazy like that. You want to make sure that you will be present for the entire draft. You need to be present for all the draft picks, and you need to make sure you're picking positions of need, and you're not just picking kickers early. You want to be as wise as possible. So make sure you have plenty of time before and after the draft, on the day of the draft. So you do need to prepare as much as you can for the draft. You do not want to be one of those guys showing up with a magazine that's a month old, that's telling you like a bunch of people to pick. They're out of date. They do not custom their scoring to your system and many other factors. If you show up with a magazine and you have not done your preparation beforehand and you're just relying on that magazine, you're the sucker. If you've ever seen the movie Rounders, if you're looking around the table when you're playing cards, trying to figure out who the sucker is and you can't figure it out in the first 10 minutes, the sucker is you. Don't be the sucker. Don't be the guy that relies on fantasy football magazines to get them through the draft. No. You need to go in, you need to prepare, you need to go back to last season, you need to look at the guys that were kind of breaking out at the end of last season, like weeks 15, 16, and 17, guys that started to explode. They could potentially bring that into this season. They will kind of be overlooked in the draft this year, so you can get them later in the draft. These are the type of gems you want to look for in your draft. So go back to last season, look at the last few weeks in your scoring system. Who are the guys that were kind of exploding at the end of the year? Are they in similar situations? Did they stay with their same teams? Are their roles going to be the same? If those are things you're looking at, you can get some ideas on, oh, this is a guy I could target later in the draft. Because this year there is not going to be an NFL preseason. There's not going to be a way to watch these preseason games and see guys that might look like they're breaking out. Nope, that's not an option. So on that note, you do not want to show up to your draft empty-handed. If you show up to your draft empty-handed and you're just going to wing it, you're not going to win your fantasy football draft. So, beyond bringing a fantasy football magazine, which is another don't, what you want to do is prepare your own custom cheat sheet based on your scoring system tailored to your league and bring that with you. You want to be prepared to make picks as deep as you need to go for your fantasy football draft. You should have 50 players in order that you want to pick them, 50 players, and you want to take them in that order. Deep at every position. And if you don't have that, then you're not prepared for your draft. And beyond just ranking guys from 1 to 50 at each position, you probably should rank them in tiers. And what I mean by that is, who are the guys that you'd be willing to take in the first round? Put them in gold or blue or whatever color you want, but signify a tier of guys that you would take in the first round. That way, if it comes to you in the first round and all the good running backs that you would consider first round picks are gone, maybe you want to look at a wide receiver, and you see a wide receiver in your, gold tier or top tier. Then you go on and take those. Later in the draft, you can use the tier system. When it comes to round 5, 6, 7, and you're looking for another running back to get, oh, I see running backs in the second or third tier that I could get and steal them here in the middle rounds. So come prepared fully. Make a cheat sheet as many deep as you possibly can at each position and tier them. Here is a big do. Mock draft. I cannot say this enough. Mock draft, and then when you're done mock draft again. There are so many websites that you can do practice mock drafts for your fantasy football draft. I recommend doing as many as possible in every scenario possible. Make sure whatever mock draft tool you're using, they allow you to put in your custom scoring. Do not mock draft on a basic platform that doesn't allow you to customize the scoring, because that doesn't help you at all. You want to customize the scoring for your league so that you're getting a more accurate representation of the draft that's going to occur on your draft day, not some typical draft, but the one that you're in. You want to know, hey, are quarterbacks scoring heavy in my league? Well, if I customize the scoring in my mock draft tool, quarterbacks will go a little bit higher than the norm. And so in your mock draft, that will occur and will be more realistic to your draft. Do not rely on ADP, average draft position. Everyone is publishing ADPs. So ADP is a good tool to know around what round guys will go. Okay? That's it. If you're relying on ADP to just go through your draft, if you're just crossing off ADP as the draft goes and then your turn comes up and you take the next guy on the ADP list, you're not going to have a good draft. First of all, you're not drafting to the needs of your own team. And second of all, ADP is a collective average draft position of all the drafts out there. And some of the drafts don't go like your draft. Okay? A lot of leagues don't value quarterbacks, for instance, because they're so similar in scoring, you can get them later, and that's the way you're taught to draft. But in my league, quarterbacks score a lot of points. So guys like Patrick Mahomes, they score a ton more points than the next best guys. So you probably want to take quarterbacks a little earlier than you would in other drafts. But if you're following ADP, you're not going to take a quarterback till 3rd, 4th, 5th round. And that's not how my leagues work. Quarterbacks go in the 1st round. I've seen them go 1st overall. Matter of fact, about 7-8 years ago, I took Peyton Manning when he had his record-setting season. I took him 1st overall. Took a little flack when I did it, but overall it paid off, and I won. I was in 5 leagues. I had Peyton Manning in all 5 leagues. I won 5 leagues. So don't listen to the noise. ADP is your friend. It can help you to know where guys are going to go in the draft, but it is not your tool to just draft off of when the draft is occurring. Here's another do. Do pay attention to bye weeks. Now, bye weeks are not the end-all be-all for your draft, but if you're taking your first quarterback and then you want to take a backup quarterback, you probably want to pay attention to the bye weeks, because if you pick 2 quarterbacks that are on the same bye week, well, then you just wasted a pick, okay? Especially if you're only going to have 2 quarterbacks on your roster. So, but if you're taking a top-tier quarterback that, like Patrick Mahomes, that you're just going to play every week, then your backup that you get much later in the draft should at least be playing the week that Patrick Mahomes is off. Do not go into the draft with a predetermined strategy. If you're going into the draft saying, no matter what happens, in the 1st round I'm taking a running back, in the 2nd round I'm taking a wide receiver, and the 3rd round I'm taking a quarterback, etc., you have not entered the draft with the best strategy. Period. The draft is always evolving. It depends on, there could be a run on running backs, and you could have the last pick in the 1st round. And now if you take, hey, I'm taking a running back there, you might get a running back 2 there, okay? Or you could get the best wide receiver in football there. So why would you go in with a predetermined strategy? What you should be doing is mock drafting every scenario possible so that whatever occurs, you're prepared to adjust and do it from there. Simple. So mock draft again and again and again, trying every scenario possible, because this will become your friend. By the time that the draft starts, you will be prepared for any situation. That's the way to go into the draft. Do not, let me say this again, do not take a kicker until one of the last 2 rounds. Period. Kickers are all the same. They are random. You don't know who's going to lead the league in scoring, and you don't know who's going to score the most points week to week. So why are you wasting an earlier pick on a kicker? If you're taking a kicker 4, 5, 6 rounds before the draft is over, you are failing miserably. Do not take a backup kicker. Okay? You're drafting your kicker in the last round, maybe the second to last round. That's all you need. When it's your kicker's bye, drop him. Pick up another kicker. Who cares? Do not draft a backup kicker. Do take as many running backs as you can. Now, that doesn't mean you want to go into the draft taking a running back in the first, a running back in the second, a running back in the third, etc. No, that's not what I'm talking about. So you draft your starting running backs. It doesn't matter what round you get them in. Then you want to draft depth later on as the draft goes at the running back position. Because running backs get hurt more than any other position in football. And the teams that win the championships usually have depth at the running back position. Do not use strength of schedule as the ultimate tool to make your picks. Strength of schedule varies from year to year tremendously. Strength of schedule is based on last year, okay? And if you're not taking Patrick Mahomes this year because he has a tough strength of schedule, well, you're a fool. Because Patrick Mahomes can drop 40, 50, 60 points on any defense, and you should know that by now. So do not use strength of schedule as the ultimate tool to make draft picks, okay? But do use strength of schedule when it's a tie between a couple guys or a couple defenses. You can then look at strength of schedule and make a decision in that area. That makes sense. Do pay attention to the news. You should be regularly visiting websites to keep up with the news. Football Guys is the perfect example. You can go on their website and they have news clippings for the entire day. You can see what's going on. You just want to keep your ear to the ground and keep up with the news, because when you go into the draft, you want to be fully prepared for anything. So if there's a last minute contract dispute, someone's going to hold out, you need to know these things, because now you need to adjust when you draft these players. Or a guy could get injured at the last second in a practice right before the draft. So keep your ear to the ground, pay attention to that news, and go into the draft fully prepared. Do not use auto draft. Ever. Okay? So if it's getting towards the end of the draft and you're just like, I'm just going to turn on the auto draft, you're not winning your league. Do not use auto draft under any situation, period. Ever. If you don't have enough people on your list to be able to make picks all the way through the entire draft, then you have not fully prepared for your draft. Here's one that sometimes even I have problems following. Do not go in to the draft with players that you absolutely must have. Because what will eventually happen is you'll overreach and draft them too early because you gotta have them. And I fall victim to this all the time. I did it last year. I saw Baker Mayfield in the preseason and I saw all his weapons and I thought, oh my gosh, I think Baker Mayfield's gonna break out. And what I did is I reached and I took him early, and my team sucked. Okay? And lastly, do have fun. That's what the draft is supposed to be. Now with COVID, I know a lot of drafts that draft actually live in person. It's probably not going to happen this year for some of you guys, but normally that's the best time of year is the draft, and you get together with your buddies, have a few drinks, talk some smack, and draft. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. So make sure you're having fun. And all this advice that I was giving you earlier about the do's and don'ts may sound like work to you, but it should be fun. It should be fun to do mock drafts. I love doing mock drafts. That's why I'm good at fantasy football, because I practice and practice and practice, and I'm prepared for any scenario when it comes to the draft. And so I'm relaxed at the draft. There's no butterflies, and I'm not tense. I'm just chilling like a villain and letting the draft unfold and then just reacting because I'm already prepared and it's fun. Okay? So have fun. So that wraps up today's show on the do's and don'ts for your fantasy football draft. I hope you enjoyed the content. Once again, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll see you next weekend on Fantasy Sports Island. Aloha.